the Big 550 KTRS, Doug McKelvin, along with Kelly Jackson. And also joining us this morning is Kathy Helbig. She's the owner of the Kathy Helbig Group. We've been talking about real estate in various areas, primarily West St. Louis County, because that's where I live. I'm just curious. This is one of the questions that my wife and I always have. We drive by houses, and they're beautiful. They're gorgeous. They're big. And she and I always go, who's buying these properties, and what do they do for a living?
We do that down at the lake all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What are these people? I mean, there's only so many bankers, lawyers, doctors, Indian chiefs around. I mean, how do people swing these things anyway?
I mean, you'd be surprised at the money that you don't know is here in St. Louis, honestly. And people will spend a lot of money on their homes. They don't travel as much. They're not into big cars, so they will have a bigger house payment, and that's where they live.
That's where
of their time, so they will.
Okay, well, that makes sense.
There's family money, all kinds of lots of business people have a really good income to be able to
new money, old money,
houses.
Middle of the road
money everywhere.
Yes,
thank goodness for our business.
And the other part that gets me too is in my area there were a number of they probably have basements in them, but single-story to me, ranch-style houses sitting on acre and a half, 2 acres maybe, and they've been there for decades. And now people are slowly cherry-picking them off and knocking them down, and putting nice new houses in there that fit the neighborhood, that sort of thing. You're seeing a lot of that these days?
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's prime for tear down. There's a lot of houses that just really never put the money into updates, and then the environment around them is starting to be more expensive homes, so it can support going in and buying that house for a reasonable price, taking it down to the ground and starting over again. I mean, a lot of people do remodels too, but then you're stuck with some of the basic footprint of that house, the bones. So it is a lot more enticing for some people just to take it down to the ground, but it's got to be at the right price to be able to do that, or you've got to have a big enough pocketbook to be able to do that as well.
Is it tough legally to be able to do that? Because I know some portions of the country, the new house, if you will, has to sit on top of the footprint of the old house that you can't
There's
expand.
all kinds of municipal requirements, more so if you're doing a remodel versus or an expansion to a house, versus some of the tear downs. Well, the tear downs, you're going to have to comply with new codes. But the remodels, then you have to kind of work with some of what the grandfather codes were, and then also what the new codes are that you have to kind of marry together. One person I just met with, actually, it ended up being better for him to not do the tear down. He's putting a whole new story on. He's like, the stuff that he's doing to this house is costing a fortune, and actually it would probably be a better idea to take the house down to the ground, but because of the city's requirements for sewer codes and all of that type of thing, he would have to spend extra money redoing all the sewers, going underground, replacing all the piping, that type of thing. So in his mind, it was better just to deal with the fact that it's not going to be a great flowing floor plan and make the house bigger. So to each his own on that.
We had a house in our subdivision, and this shows you how things flip-flop over the years, and it was one of these homes that has like a kitchen dining area, and then between it there was a chimney with one of these see-through fireplaces, and then a living area. And that thing sat on the market forever and a day. And I contend it's because this is one of those situations I said to myself, I'd take that chimney out and open that whole thing up, because it's just how things ebb and flow in the design of houses these days.
Correct.
You know, I mean, so what are you seeing that's people are really looking for, other than big bathroom? Big bathrooms have still got to be hot, right?
Always.
What else? What else?
Well, really, the big open floor plan is something that people really are looking for, because people are starting to entertain again more and more in their home. They're also officing more and more in their homes, so offices or space where they can work. The big center islands where they can actually plug in computers and work right there in your kitchen. Definitely big showers. So we're starting to see some people do away with bathtubs and in lieu go with big master showers instead of having that separate corner tub that you have there.
Basically, bigger everything.
Yeah, bigger, just more functional, really.
Yes.
More functional and more flowing versus the chopped up small rooms. Bigger square footage isn't necessarily on everyone's wish list if the house flows well, if it's open. And then really it just depends on the areas. Each pocket has some different, what's going on in Kirkwood's different than what's going on in St. Charles, that type of thing. So it really depends on the municipalities that you're dealing with.
It would seem to me, too, that who's living in the house? If you have a husband, wife, 2.5 kids,
Right.
a dog, cat, whatever, that's a different situation than a couple who the kids have all moved out of the house.
Exactly.
And there you are
Or a
sitting
single
with,
person.
Which is
Or a
why
single
there's a
per- or a
buyer for
single
every
person.
house,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
every type of house ends up having some sort of demographic that will choose it over another style house. So the big 2-story homes, and I tell people this all the time, they don't think about using us for new construction, but it's so important because we're trying to come in and bulletproof your investment when you're building a house. So we're going to make sure that you're choosing things not only for just the vacuum that you're in as your family, how you're going to build a house for your family, but likely, statistically, you are not going to stay in that house until the grave. So you're going to sell it at some point in time. So we need to make sure that you're doing certain key items that aren't going to cost you thousands and thousands of dollars later because you missed it or you made something so specific for your house, for your family, that it doesn't appeal to the mass public later. So things like when you're building a 2-story home and then you pick a small lot, or you build a 2-story home with a small lot that backs to water. You have to think about who's a demographic that's likely going to buy that house. Well, maybe you're in your 50s and you built this house. You don't have young kids, but the majority of 2-story homes like that are going to sell to younger families with younger children. And younger families with younger children don't want to worry about their kids drowning in the water behind. They want a bigger yard for play sets and trampolines and things like that. So whereas the same lot could have more value by building a ranch home on it, because that's likely going to be somebody who doesn't have younger children, and maybe that 40s, 50s-year-old couple that now wants to look at that water lot, doesn't want to maintain a property. That same piece of land is now worth more with that type of house on it versus it's worth less with a 2-story home on it.
People want to get more information from you. How do they go about doing it?
See us at KathyHelbigGroup.com, or they can call us at 314-276-SOLD.
Kathy, thank you so much for the time this morning.
Thank you.
Good talking to you. Kathy Helbig, owner of the Kathy Helbig Group, joining us here in studio at 7:44 here on the Big 5.